Hi guys. So what is coming up for the Divine Feminine is some anger, but this anger doesn't feel negative. It feels empowering and it feels strong and it feels important for us to be felt, to be seen, to be understood, because I think especially for women, anger is something we shouldn't feel, and for the divine masculine, it's suppressed anger is shown in aggression and neediness and toxicity towards women often. And what I see in myself is there's some anger coming up, but it doesn't feel bad, or I don't judge it, because I understand that kind of anger that is leading me to my power, or understanding myself more, or me feeling worthy, and me setting boundaries with. It's difficult for me to talk about men and women as something that is like working against each other, but truth is I am a woman and I experience lots of some patterns around men and their behavior towards women, and women's behavior towards men if they haven't found their worth yet and their power. So I sense a lot of immature men who haven't dealt with their sadness or anger and grief, or their sadness and grief, so that is suppressed and it turns into aggression and anger, and it's just often projected onto women. I see that at the moment really strongly, and I saw that for a while. So what's happening in those situations is that I was confronted with some really rude, unkind, unloving comments of a stranger, of someone I don't know. And the first thing I felt was, the first thing is always irritation, because I don't know how you could say something that rude to another person. And the second feeling is anger, and then I feel sad. But if I would use the anger, I would know how to set boundaries, and I would know that the anger is a really good sign that a boundary was crossed and somebody was treating me poorly. And my anger, for women, anger is something often we shouldn't be feeling, right? Because women are not supposed to be angry. And an angry woman who uses her anger in a strong, empowered way has huge potential for the earth. And so my first reaction is irritation, because I'm always irritated when people say something rude or unkind, because it's just not for no reason. I would never say that to someone who's working in a place and is serving me coffee or whatever, right? So the second thing is, the first thing is irritation, the second thing is anger, and then I sometimes feel sadness. And a few months back, or a few weeks back, or just maybe even a few days back, I would have stayed in that sadness and thinking the treatment of the other person would be proof of my unworthiness. But what's coming up for us, if we tap in and if we see that and understand that, is a great strength because of that anger, of that power, understanding, wait a minute, how could you just go around and be rude and unkind to people for no reason? Me being nice and you being rude, there's something going on here, and I'm not willing to take it anymore. And something really important we have to understand: when we learn to set boundaries with people who are unkind, rude, unfriendly, even if you work somewhere, you're not a doormat for anyone. Especially what I learned in service industry. You're there to serve, but you're not someone's doormat, or you're not here to be like used and manipulated. And you're still allowed to set boundaries. Really important. And what we understand that when the more, let's just use that example of women and men, and immature older men especially, like having some kind of anger and aggression towards women because their mom wasn't like loving them enough, whatever, or they are just like, because they don't talk to men that way, they talk to women that way. And the more we learn as women to understand, wait a minute, just wait 1 second, just 1 second, how come you're talking to me like that? Who do you think you are talking to me like that? And you can prepare yourself or learn to say something like, sometimes we don't have to react at all, or you just stand in your power. You learn to stand in your power. You learn to understand, this person is not defining my worthiness. I'm not more or less valuable or worthy because of how you treat me. That's bullshit. And the most important thing is when we understand our power, and when we learn to, maybe first be irritated and then be angry because someone would be treating us like shit. And when we don't get sucked into that sadness, because we understand that there's no need to be sad, because I know my worthiness. And especially when a lot of times they do that with anyone, or maybe that they don't, but then it's because they are triggered by you because of something, right? Probably because of your light and your power. So what's important to understand is, men, like I said, it's difficult for me to use that example because I don't want to create separation, but separation is already there, right? And the most experience I have was with older men being unkind to younger women, and either weird in a sexual way or rude and unkind. Like, can you just be normal? Or is it either about sex for you or like control over women? And it is an issue, but please let's be honest about that. It is an issue. There's love and light, but there is the fact that there is a group of men loving to have control and power over women. Not all men, but obviously I'm not talking about all men, okay? So it's important to understand that the more we learn our worthiness as women, the more we appreciate our softness and our womanness and our roundness and our womanhood and our us as women are so incredibly powerful, and I feel that is coming up. So when we understand that us setting boundaries is when we are leading and when we are being a role model for younger or other women, even older women sometimes, often actually. When we learn that, And when we learn to set boundaries with people who treat us that way, it's man can continue, if we work with that example, which we do, man can continue to treat us that way, right? Because they will try to do that with every woman because it makes them feel good about themselves to have something like power and manipulation, and I experience it on a daily basis. They will feel good about themselves. And just imagine a man saying something rude or unkind to every woman, or like to most women he sees, and every woman would set a boundary with that guy. He would go nuts. Why? Because he's been doing that for 30 years. And now somebody's setting a boundary with him, or somebody's acting out, or somebody's being bitchy. You know, that's what he would think. But if every woman, and then men think women are just like beasts and angry and for no reason and like bitchy, right? First of all, let's be honest, it's weird when you're old and you flirt with younger, when you're 60, 70 and you flirt with 20-year-old girls. That is fucking weird. And I would never do that the other way around with younger guys. I would never think of hitting on a 20-year-old guy when I was 60 or 70. Well, let's wait a bit, but like, let's use it today. I would not hit on a 20-year-old guy. I wouldn't. And it still would be different because like there's a difference between 60 and 20. But anyway, it's just about the way they are seeing women, either as a way to manipulate and program and control, or sexualize, or sexualize. And women are human beings, and let's just like not get fixated on the sex, right? When we treat each other as human beings and as souls. And it's really rare to find a mature, like, sorry, I didn't want to go there, but I experience that quite often. And I have been experiencing it quite often. And it's so important for women to set boundaries. And what's happening at the moment is lots of divine feminine. The horses are running. I'm sitting close to the horses and they are. Do you hear them? Oh. They're confused by me because I'm sitting behind a tree and they can't quite see me. But this is coming up, okay? Divine feminine on the rise. And us finding our power and understanding, like, wait a minute, I'm nice, I'm polite, I'm friendly. How come you're saying something unkind? Who do you think you are, right? And we as women often don't understand that we have a right to be angry. We have a right to say, wait a minute, why do you treat me like that? What do you think, like, who you are? What's your words? And we think we are less lovable when we're strong, or when we're capable of like stepping up or speaking truth. If I speak my truth, if I set a boundary with that one guy, I speak my truth, I speak the truth and set a boundary for all the women he's been treating poorly before. Okay, that's important to understand. And also we feel so guilty for setting boundaries, and so it's so weird for us to be angry. But maybe when we feel anger, it's a sign that it's time for anger. And it's time for anger and to channel it into something really strong and empowered. And we feel like we're only lovable or a proper woman when we're constantly soft and nice and kind. No, you don't know the warrior woman. You haven't seen a warrior woman if you think women are supposed to be nice and kind and soft all the time. I love being soft. I love being kind. But not if you treat me like a doormat, and not if you think like it's okay to, because what we quite think as empathic, highly sensitive women, right? We always have to be nice and kind and patient with those who need healing, and even men who are rude and unkind, we have to still be friendly with them. And that's an illusion, because if we keep doing that, and that's actually what comes up quite strongly and feels quite powerful, when we keep doing that, constantly being nice and kind and apologetic, tiptoe around someone, somebody comes up and shows up with a huge ego and is manipulating you with their energy, like not looking at you if you want to like communicate because you need to work together or whatever, and it's like just having a huge ego and feels better than you. What is happening when never ever any person is never ever going to set a boundary with that person? They will keep doing that and will be allowed in their space, and they will carry that energy and will do more of that, and no woman ever will set a boundary with that, and they keep doing that. And it's important to understand it's lovable and loving to step up for yourself and for others. It's loving to set a boundary, to say, I don't want to be treated that way, right? And the anger is usually, we're confused, or sometimes we suppress that anger because we think we're not a proper woman, or we are not a good person. And for women, it's so important to be a good person, right? To be liked by everyone. Sorry, but that is just so much the pattern for women. And what we think is that I constantly have to be nice and kind, and when I set a boundary, and when I feel that anger, I'm not a good person. And anger is something really important for us to feel when there's something wrong or there's something off. And anger is usually when we aren't being seen, or when a boundary has been crossed, or when somebody is rude without a reason, and we feel angry and irritated. And for the longest time, I thought I should be tolerating everything and anything. And now the more work I do, the more I understand, with my power of the work I've done, with my courage, and with me learning to set boundaries, with that great power comes great responsibility, right? Like in Spider-Man. And with that great responsibility comes the need for me to take action, either by talking about it or by setting boundaries with those people. Because I know that if in my space are working only women, and they are not, not all of them are capable of setting boundaries yet. If I set a boundary with someone, and I could just in that moment, in that 5 seconds, I can be a role model and I can be leading, I will do it, right? I will do it for myself, for others, and for all the women that are following. And if we can do that, because we have the inner strength, because setting boundaries takes a lot of strength, if we have been highly sensitive and empathic for the longest time and learned that with every boundary we set, or with every time we felt anger as a child, we would have been rejected. There comes a lot of strength when we start doing that, when we start to understand, the boundary I'm setting is not only for me to feel better about myself, the boundary is for all the women, all the children, all the people, right? all the people you feel like you could treat that way, all the people who are not going to step up and say something when you treat them that way. It's not for me to, of course it's also for me, but it's not for me to be like acting out and be dramatic. It's for me and for you. It's for you to understand. It's for the other person to understand. Oh, wow. I shouldn't be talking to people like that. And of course they wouldn't see, but for them to understand, you've gone too far. My boundaries are love language. For you to understand that's not how you treat people or women. That's not how you talk to someone. I don't know who raised you, but that's not how you talk to someone. And maybe they are going to reflect about, why did I actually say that? And maybe they go to a place where they find grief and their frustration and their own anger, and maybe they will address it. But if they are not faced with a boundary, right? If they are never ever going to be faced with a boundary, like someone who's abusing women or children, and they are never going to be confronted with a rule, a law, and them and punishment, right? Because that's what they would deserve. Because that's justice, and we want justice. At least I want justice. I don't know. They will just keep doing that, right? If we keep allowing people to act out on us, they will act out on everyone. Boundaries are a love language for others to understand what's accepted, how you treat others, and how you don't. And I feel that strongly, and I feel that especially strong with the divine feminine towards the masculine, right? Because that's what I personally experience a lot in my daily life. But in general, boundaries, self-worth, feeling empowered and strong, the inner knowing of my worthiness is not dependent on how other people treat me. That is coming up at the moment, and it feels really powerful, and it feels really amazing and great and awesome. And I hope that was helpful, and I hope you're feeling that too. It's really exciting. I feel a shift, and a new time is coming, and I feel it quite strongly, and a more supporting time for all of us starseeds and empath and light workers. And thank you so much for watching, and have a beautiful day. Thank you so much. Bye.